Chapter 40-42. However, no matter how hard Bailey Hongzhuang knocked on the surrounding bricks, she did not notice any difference. This place is so strange. We've been searching for so long, but why haven't we found anything? Shangguan Yingying looked puzzled. She had always heard that there were various unexpected situations in the ruins, but there should be traces to follow. The situation in front of them was completely baffling, and they did not know where to start. It's indeed a little strange. Xiren nodded. There's nothing here except for the walls. Moreover, there's nothing special about the walls. Where are we going to find a way to crack it? This is my first time entering the ruins, so I can't give any good suggestions. Ren Ziheng frowned. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not discovered that this was a small world, he did not know how long it would have taken him to figure it out. He was completely baffled by the current situation and had absolutely no idea what to do. Everyone, please calm down. Since the owner of the ruins has set up all of this, there must be a way to crack it. If you want to obtain the treasures in the ruins, you must pay a price. Let's search carefully. Maybe we'll miss some details. Di Beichen calmed everyone's emotions. The more confused they were, the easier it was for them to become anxious. Once they became anxious, it would be even more difficult to find anything. Therefore, they must first suppress this negative emotion. Only by calming down would they be able to find something. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Ren Ziheng and the others nodded. The anxiety in their eyes quietly dissipated. Everyone began to check their surroundings patiently. Bailey Hongzhuang felt the wall in front of her with both hands. There were only these things here. Presumably, they would have to start from this wall. After carefully feeling around, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, Beichen, there seems to be a small sunken spot on this wall. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone could not help but come closer. They looked curiously at the spot that Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing at. After taking a closer look, everyone's faces were full of surprise. Indeed, there is a sunken spot here. The sunken spot was very small. If they did not reach out to feel it carefully, it was very likely that they would have missed it. But this spot is not a mechanism. What does a sunken spot mean? Ao Lingxiao's eyes were full of thoughts. Although there was a trace of discovery, what was the use of it? At this moment, Shangguan Yingying's voice rang out. I found a spot here too. Yes, there is one here too. Ren Zimei followed. After discovering these small dots one after another, everyone ruled out the possibility that they were accidental. Even if the stone was slightly damaged, it was impossible for several small dots to appear in one area. It was very likely that the key lay in these small dots. The next moment, Mo Yunjue took out some fluorescent powder from his Chengkuan bag and sprinkled it on the small dot. The small dot became bright in the darkness. Let's find these dots and see if they can give us any hints, Mo Yunjue said. Chapter 40-43. Small dots were discovered one after another, and everyone used fluorescent powder to mark these small dots. In the end, everyone realized that the number of dots was not small. It was not until the last dot was marked out that they realized that the glowing dots were like fireflies all around them. There are no more dots. We've found all of them, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Shangguan Yingying immediately sat on the ground and looked at the dots on the three walls. Her eyes were filled with amazement. Hongzhuang, you're really amazing. You're so careful that you can even find these dots. If it were me, I'm afraid that I would only think that these are traces left behind by the erosion of time. Ren Zimei nodded repeatedly. Yes, who would have thought that these dots would be the key to solving the mystery? Ordinary people would overlook them. Fortunately, I came with you. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I would have to stay in this dark path forever and never be able to get out. I just have some experience and know that I can't overlook anything. That's why I was able to find them. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. After exploring the ruins several times, she already understood that many details that people usually overlook were often the key to solving the mystery. Perhaps every owner of the ruins would have this idea, so her observation was especially meticulous. However, these dots look disorderly. I don't know what they mean. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at the flickering dots around her. Her pretty face was filled with confusion. These disorderly dots could not give them any hints at all. If she was not sure that there were so many dots around her, She would not even think that these were hints at all. Observe carefully. Maybe there is some pattern in these dots that we haven't found yet. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand. It's already very amazing that you can find the existence of these dots. Hearing Di Beichen's gentle and doting words, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart warmed and the corners of her lips could not help but curl up slightly. As long as Di Beichen was by her side, she would feel extremely at ease. Next, everyone began to stare at these dots. However, the existence of these dots was too messy, and they couldn't make any connections at all. I only feel countless fireflies flying around in front of me. They're making me dizzy. Chu Jinfeng could not help but rub his head with both hands. He felt that his brain was a mess and he could not understand the meaning of these things. Who knows what these things are for? I don't understand at all. Ren Zimei also looked frustrated. This kind of thing was too brain-draining. She thought of everything she could think of, but she still couldn't find anything. Shangguan Yingning couldn't help but look at Wen Ziren. Seeing that Wen Ziren and the others were still staring at these dots with serious expressions, she dismissed the idea of speaking. If it were them, they would not be able to find any clues. Time gradually passed. In this silent darkness, no one knew how much time had passed. But according to their judgment, it was probably 3 days. Di Beichen's gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang became increasingly gentle. Previously, all of them had fallen into a misconception. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't mentioned this point, they probably wouldn't have been able to wake up from the previous scene. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I just couldn't figure it out. That's why I had no choice but to use this analogy. You were the one who discovered it first. You two don't have to be modest with each other. You two are the best. As expected of husband and wife. Chapter 40-47. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. That means that the way to find the next path should be in this grand hall. Everyone, look carefully and see if there are any special places. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the crowd did not delay any longer and started to search. After the first experience, everyone was no longer as lost as before. On the contrary, everyone was able to calm down and pay attention to their surroundings. Even such a small dot could be the key to passing the stage, then they had to be extremely careful. However, at this moment, Mo Yunjue pointed to a protruding rock in front of the grand hall and said, "Do you guys think? The switch should not be this rock, right?" Once this was said, everyone's gaze fell onto the rock. Indeed, that rock was clearly protruding. Although at first glance it was impossible to discover its existence, but after a closer look, one would be able to discover it. If it's this, isn't it a little too simple? Shangguan Yingning could not help but scratch her head. According to the previous experience, passing the stage should be extremely complicated. If it was such an obvious mechanism, then it felt a little different from what they had imagined. Everyone looked at each other and were momentarily unable to make up their minds. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the front of the mechanism and after examining it carefully, she could not help but say, "This mechanism is really too obvious. Could it be that it is not a mechanism to pass the stage but a dangerous mechanism?" Everyone fell into silence. Bailey Hongzhuang said the same thing that they were thinking about. This was indeed very possible. With such an obvious mechanism, anyone who looked carefully would be able to notice it. Compared to the previous situation, this was really too simple. Why don't we first look around to see if there are any other mechanisms? If we don't find any, then we can try this mechanism. What do you guys think? Di Beichen suggested. All right. Everyone agreed. This was the most reliable method. Following this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest of the 9 people started to search around. However, no matter how they searched, they did not find anything. In the end, everyone's gaze locked onto the obvious mechanism. Looks like we can only try this mechanism, Mo Yunjue said calmly. Then let's give it a try. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Everyone has to be extra careful. Problems can happen at any time. A solemn expression appeared on everyone's faces. After Mo Yunjue pressed the mechanism, everyone carefully paid attention to their surroundings, wary of any unforeseen events that might occur. All they heard was the sound of a mechanism turning. Immediately after, everyone was surprised to find that a large door had opened on their right. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. It can't be? Is this mechanism really that simple? Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but be speechless. The skeletons outside have only been nourished outside the ruins for a period of time, and their strength has increased so much. These skeletons have been staying in the ruins for who knows how many years. Naturally, their strength is extraordinary. Di Baichen's expression was solemn. Based on the current situation, they only had one path, but this path was so difficult that it was difficult to choose. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood why Ao Lingxiao had said that to enter the upper realm, one had to be at the astral radiance realm or above. Otherwise, those below the astral radiance realm would not be able to pass through the group of skeletons. Thinking about it, the skeletons in the upper realm were about the same as the skeletons in front of them. Let's try our best to charge through. If we really can't, we'll give up. Chapter 40-50. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was very interested in the inheritance of the ruins, they had to consider the big picture. Apart from the three of them who had already broken through to the Starlight Realm, the others obviously felt a huge pressure. In comparison, they would rather not enter the ruins and have everyone be safe. After all, they were a team, and no one was willing to see their teammates get injured because they were risking their lives. Dibei nodded. Okay. Compared to the lives of Xiren and the others, the inheritance was not that important. Mo Yunjua did not speak. To him, this kind of thing was not within the scope of his consideration. In fact, he, who grew up in the heavenly slaughter tower, did not have such emotions. The most important thing was his own interests. Giving up his own interests for the sake of everyone was undoubtedly an extremely stupid move to him. However, the only one he cared about was Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter what decision Bailey Hongzhuang made, he had no objections. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others make such a decision, Xiren and the others felt even more pressure in their hearts. No one would be willing to give up such a good opportunity. However, just because they were holding back, they had implicated Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to give up as well. They felt that they had let down Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In the next moment, Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xiren could not help but look at each other, and then nodded affirmatively. Then the two of them displayed their strongest martial skills together. Bang! An astonishing wave spread out, causing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were fighting to turn their gazes away. Their eyes flashed with astonishment. They did not expect Wen Xiren and Shangguan Yingying to be able to burst out with such an attack. After the two of them displayed their joint martial skill, an incomparably tyrannical force appeared. Then, the skeletons in the line in front of them turned into powder. Quick! Let's move forward, Xiren hurriedly said. Right now, the only thing they could do was to seize this opportunity and move forward quickly. After opening up a gap, they would quickly close in. Otherwise, if they were delayed, they would really have no strength left. Even though everyone was shocked by the might of Xiren and Wen Xinya's combined martial skill, they knew that now was not the time to be concerned about this point. Immediately, their figures flashed and they quickly rushed into the middle of the skeleton army. As they walked into the center, the pressure from the skeletons from all directions increased. Instantly, everyone formed a circle with their backs against each other and moved forward together. From the moment they chose to break into the encirclement, they already had no way out. Just as they were moving forward with all their might, a commotion suddenly came from ahead. Rumble! Chapter 40-51. Listening to their conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. They secretly guessed that this so-called senior brother Li couldn't be the Li Boyo they didn't want to see, right? If that was the case, it would be too much of a coincidence. As the door gradually opened, the appearance of the cultivator inside also appeared in the line of sight of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but feel their hearts skip a beat. It was really a small world. The person they didn't want to meet the most just happened to meet him. It can't be, right? How can it be so coincidental? We just wanted to avoid Li Boyo, and this guy just happened to meet us. Shangguan Yingying looked helpless. It wasn't easy to deceive Li Buoyo before. No one knew when this Li Buoyo would figure everything out and come back to his senses. If this guy suddenly figured out how to deal with them, then it would be troublesome. The heavens don't do as we wish. The heavens really don't open their eyes. Chu Jinfeng couldn't help but sigh. Looking at Shangguan Yingying and Chu Jinfeng's helpless appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Actually, this is also expected. Li Buoyo's strength is so tyrannical, it can be seen that his comprehension is also very high. Now, the cultivator teams that can break through here are all strong teams. It's normal for him to appear here. Usually, the comprehension of strong cultivators was not low. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for them to achieve such achievements at such a young age. Therefore, it was reasonable for Li Buoyo to be able to comprehend it so quickly. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ran Ziheng and the others couldn't help but nod. There were only a few possibilities for the cultivators to appear here. As long as they were fast enough, it could be said that it was inevitable for them to meet Li Buoyo and the others. But it's good that these guys appeared. It's too much pressure for us to deal with these skeletons alone. With them here, they can naturally share some of the pressure. In a way, this guy can be considered to have helped us a little. Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Li Buoyo obviously did not expect to meet Bailey Hongzhuang and the others here. Seeing them surprised him even more than seeing the group of skeletons. The faces of the cultivators who had said that Li Buoyo would be the first batch to arrive turned ugly to behold. They had wanted to flatter Li Buoyo. Unexpectedly, someone else had arrived before them. Their faces could not help but turn ugly to behold. Li Buoyo naturally thought of this as well. His expression revealed some embarrassment, and a layer of haze quietly covered his eyes. Previously, he did not pay much attention to Bailey Hongzhuang and her team. After all, this team was not large. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was quite famous, that was only in the field of medical skills. Chapter 40-53. They were the first group to reach this place and they could not be overtaken by the other party. They had taken great pains to seize the initiative and they had to grasp it firmly in their own hands. After all, they had spent so much effort to reach this place. According to their judgment, the path ahead had always been a test. Perhaps there would be treasures behind them. If they were overtaken by the other party here, it would be too disappointing. Following Shangguan Yingying's words, everyone could not help but straighten their expressions. Junior sister Shangguan is right. We have to charge forward with all our might. Bailey Hongzhuang gently nodded her delicate head, and the sound of her guqin poured out. Vigorous yuan power was mixed in the sound of her guqin, and formed a straight attack under her control. Bailey Hongzhuang's guqin opened the path and Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's attacks followed closely behind Bailey Hongzhuang, widening the path once again. At the same time, when Xiren and the others were not slow at all. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had opened the path, they rushed forward as fast as they could. Before the skeleton army came in full force again, they advanced as fast as they could. Although this method consumed a lot of yuan power, it was undeniable that their speed was not slow. Li Buoyo and the others were also attacking with all their might. The power that the 20 over people exploded with was naturally very terrifying. Just like how they had been able to enter the ruins at the fastest speed, one could see how powerful their combat power was. Their speed was not slow at all. The skeleton army's numbers were extremely terrifying and their powers were extremely powerful. On a normal day, they often went to the training grounds to train and understood these skeletons very well. Not only that, their combat power was the strongest in the Crimson Moon sect and they had worked together for a long time. Their tacit understanding was extremely high. They had originally thought that their speed would definitely surpass Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, they had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would advance at a speed that was not any slower than theirs. Instantly, their eyes were filled with a thick sense of astonishment. I did not expect that although the number of cultivators from Penglai Palace is small, their fighting style is very special. They are able to maintain this speed even when surrounded by so many skeletons. They are quite capable. Qian Feilong's eyes flashed with astonishment. As an expert of the Crimson Moon sect, his eyesight was naturally not bad. Recently, Bailey Hongzhuang was really in the limelight. He also knew that the sect had sent people to recruit her, but they were not successful. Because of this, he had always been very curious about Bailey Hongzhuang. He wanted to know what kind of person could actually make such a name for herself. Chapter 4054. No matter what treasures there were, the cultivators who arrived first would definitely reap the most benefits. If they were late, the treasures would fall into someone else's hands. Let's speed up. We can't let these juniors see us as a joke, Li Buoyo said calmly, but there was a hint of coldness in his tone. He had always been the most popular cultivator in the Crimson Moon sect. How could he let a few rising stars from the Penglai Palace steal his limelight? As Li Buoyo's voice fell, Qian Feilong and the others couldn't help but shudder. They had been teammates with Li Buoyo for so long, so they understood his temperament very well. Such a tone meant that he was starting to feel displeased. In the next moment, everyone sped up. Indeed, under such circumstances, if Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were to steal the initiative, they would lose face if word got out. Immediately, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others realized that Li Buoyo and the others had completely unleashed their speed. Their speed could be said to be abnormally fast. Seeing this, they did not dare to delay. After all, whoever was the fastest would be able to steal the initiative. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Buoyo's teams were competing, another wall suddenly opened. Hearing this familiar voice, the cultivators in Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Buoyo's teams could not help but look at the opening door. They did not know which faction's cultivators had appeared this time. Could it be the cultivators from the 100 Flowers Gate? Shangguan could not help but wonder. Now that the teams from the Penglai Palace and the Crimson Moon sect had appeared, only the 100 Flowers Gates team had yet to appear. Perhaps it was the 100 Flowers Gates team that had appeared at this moment. I don't know. We'll know if we keep watching. I just hope it's not the Crimson Moon sect's team, when Xiren said. Li Buoyo and the others had unleashed their speed very quickly. In comparison, they only had a slight advantage. If it was the Crimson Moon sect's team that appeared, then they would naturally be no match for them once the two teams worked together. At the same time, Li Buoyo and the others were also secretly guessing the team that might appear. They only hoped that it was not the Penglai Palace's team. It would be better if it was the 100 Flowers Gate. This way, the three factions would be able to combine forces. As the tightly shut door gradually opened, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also saw the cultivators inside. After seeing the familiar clothes, everyone's eyes could not help but light up. These are the clothes of the Penglai Palace. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately noticed the other party's clothes. From this point alone, she could tell which power the other party belonged to. Dibei-chan and the others also had smiles on their faces. As long as it was the team of their Penglai Palace, then in the face of the Red Moon sect they would be a whole. Chapter 4055. Hearing Qian Feilong's guess, Li Buoyo's face turned cold. He had been competing with Wan Yanling for so many years. Although their strengths were similar and they had always been tied, Wan Yanling's reputation had always been better than his because he belonged to Penglai Palace. Regarding this point, it could be said that he was extremely unconvinced. Therefore, he had always wanted to defeat Wan Yanling to prove that he was the strongest. At the same time, he could also fight for Crimson Moon sect. However, every time his strength increased and he challenged Wan Yanling, he would find that Wan Yanling had also improved. From the beginning to the end, the two of them could not determine a winner. However, Wan Yanling's reputation was still higher than his. As the door was completely opened, the appearance of the cultivators in the team appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Ren Ziheng's eyes flashed with surprise. Its senior brother Wan Yan and the others. The faces of Dibei-chan and the others also showed a light of understanding. Wan Yanling was the strongest person in their Penglai Palace. Ever since they joined Penglai Palace, they were not unfamiliar with the name Wan Yanling. As the strongest cultivator in Penglai Palace, he was naturally in the limelight. However, he spent most of his time in seclusion. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had not seen his true face. Therefore, they did not have much interaction with him. Wan Yinling clearly did not expect that there were two other teams that had arrived here before them. A surprised look appeared on his handsome face. However, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was so fast that it was hard to notice. I didn't expect it to be so lively here, Wan Yinling said slowly. A smile appeared on his lips. Your reputation as Penglai Palace's #1 master is undeserved. Your junior brothers and sisters are all faster than you, Li Buoyo said in a mocking tone. Hearing this, Wan Yinling did not care at all. There are talented people in every generation. Our Penglai Palace's outstanding disciples come in batches. I will be happier if they can surpass me. In comparison, your Crimson Moon sect has always needed you to shoulder the burden. You can imagine the difference between the two. Li Buoyo originally wanted to take this opportunity to mock Wan Yinling. He didn't expect Wan Yinling to turn the tables on him. He couldn't think of a rebuttal for a while. His face instantly turned ugly. Wan Yinling, don't talk nonsense. Recently, your limelight in Penglai Palace has been completely stolen by these newcomers. No matter how you pretend, it is useless. Wan Yinling chuckled. Li Buoyo, I am not as narrow-minded as you. I am very happy that the Penglai Palace has a new excellent practitioner. I will not have the slightest intention of suppressing them. Chapter 40-56. Listening to Wan Yinling's casual and even sarcastic words, Li Buoyo's eyes suddenly burned with anger. Li Yunyu was his younger brother, and their relationship was usually very good. Now that Li Yunyu had been killed, although he didn't know who did it, since they dared to kill Li Buoyo's younger brother, then they were going against him. Once he caught the murderer, he would make them pay a heavy price. What nonsense are you talking about? Li Buoyo glared at him. Maybe some despicable person attacked my younger brother when I wasn't paying attention, intending to injure me? Hearing Li Buoyo's words, Wan Yinling said nonchalantly, Li Buoyo, you don't need to test me here. If I wanted to kill your brother, I could have done it openly. Why would I need to hide? Even if it wasn't you, it was someone from Penglai Palace. Li Buoyo's eyebrows were cold. Although he hated Wan Yinling, he also knew his character. If it was really him, Wan Yinling would admit it frankly because they both saw each other as a thorn in their side. If they could make each other unhappy, they were always very happy. Looking at Li Buoyo and Wan Yinling's tit-for-tat appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and others couldn't help but look at each other. Originally, they thought that meeting Li Buoyo was a big trouble for them. They didn't expect that after Wan Yinling appeared, it would become a tit-for-tat between Li Buoyo and Wan Yinling. It seemed that they had nothing to do with it. This was really beyond their expectations. At this time, Ran Ziheng, who knew some inside information, couldn't help but say, Senior brother Wan Yin and Li Buoyo have always been in a competitive relationship. When they meet each other, they usually compete like this. But until now, no one can do anything to the other. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. They are evenly matched? According to her judgment, Wan Yinling, as the top master of Penglai Palace, should be stronger than Li Buoyo. Ren Ziheng nodded. Used to be like this. But senior brother Wan Yin's reputation is better than Li Buoyo's because senior brother Wan Yin Han was also the top master of Penglai Palace. His fame was unique. Wan Yin Han. Ao Ling Xiao was a little surprised. Why haven't I heard of him? Brother Wan Yin went out 3 years ago and never came back. We don't know where he went, but we heard that he went out to train and won't be back for a while. Ran Ziheng also had a puzzled look on his face. Many disciples of the Penglai Palace were extremely curious about Wan Yin Han's whereabouts. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. They already had some guesses in their hearts. Come to think of it, the place Wan Yin Han went to should be the upper realm. Because Ran Ziheng had yet to break through to the Starlight realm, he wasn't very clear about this situation. However, Wan Yinling and Li Buoyo both knew about this matter. So that's how it is, Di Beichen said. Senior brother Wan Yin Han is also a genius. In the past, when senior brother Wan Yin Han was still around, there were many female disciples from the 100 Flowers Gate and Crimson Moon sect who admired him. Unfortunately, there was no news of him after that. Ren Zimei could not help but say. Chapter 4058. The other teams had at least 20 people. In comparison, their team only had 9 people, not even half of the other teams. What's more, the other teams were the top teams of the 3 major forces. Their teammates' combat power was also extremely strong, but they were much weaker. Fortunately, because they came the least, they still had a certain advantage. However, once the other team caught up, it would be very difficult for them to snatch the treasures and inheritance from the other teams with their strength. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other with a heavy heart. Now they didn't have time to waste. They had to finish everything as soon as possible. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's zither music rang out crazily, and invisible sound waves spread out. The skeletons in front of her all fell down or turned into nothingness after being attacked by the sound waves. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue also unleashed their combat power to the best. Not only did it not affect the ruins, but the effect was also excellent. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were not willing to be left behind. Long before, the two of them had already begun to practice the combination martial arts. It was just that the combination martial arts were far more difficult to practice than ordinary martial arts, because it required an extremely high degree of tacit understanding between the two people. Once there was a slight problem with one person, it would lead to the failure of the martial arts. It was precisely because of this that for so long, they had not performed this martial arts in front of others. However, after the two of them successfully performed this martial arts just now, the two of them also had a little more confidence. Under such a situation of full eruption, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other's speed was not slower than Li Boyo and the others. Seeing this scene, the other 3 teams couldn't help but be surprised. Speaking of which, they didn't find it strange that the 3 teams appeared here, but the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang's team was a bit abrupt. The most important thing was that the team with the least number of people and the weakest strength was now at the forefront. Brother Wanyan, who is that in your Penglai Palace? I didn't expect your Penglai Palace to have such a powerful rising star. Bai Yingtian of the 100 Flowers Gate couldn't help but ask. Hearing this, Wanyan Ling chuckled as he fought. Believe me, if I say their names, you will realize that you must have heard of them before. Bai Yingtian was slightly stunned and looked at Wanyan Ling in surprise. Oh? Could it be that they are very famous? Bailey Hongzhuang. You should have heard of her. Wanyan Ling chuckled. She is now the pride of our Penglai Palace. With Wanyan Ling's words, the cultivators of the 100 Flowers Gate all showed great shock. Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 4059. Currently, Bailey Hongzhuang's team was extremely famous among the 3 major sections. However, other than the disciples of Penglai Palace, the 100 Flowers Gate and Crimson Moon sect had only heard of her name but did not know what she looked like. The disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate were extremely curious about this genius doctor. They had long heard that she was very young, but when they saw her in person, they could not help but be shocked. This was because she was really too young. When they talked about her, Bailey Hongzhuang also gave them a polite smile. However, all her attention was still on dealing with these skeletons. The 4 teams all pushed their speed to the limit. Bailey Hongzhuang's team was the weakest, but they attacked in a straight line, so their speed was not slow. Only the sound of weapons clashing could be heard in the entire hall. Because there were too few people, Bailey Hongzhuang's team was left with wounds. Among them, Ren Zimei, Shangguan Yingying, and the others were the most seriously injured because it was too difficult for them to deal with all this with their cultivation. Fresh blood dripped onto the ground, but the skeletons became even more excited and their attacks became even more violent. Under such circumstances, the other teams were faintly showing signs of surpassing them. Roar! White Lion let out a loud roar and pounced forward with its huge body, attacking the skeletons' lower bodies. At the same time, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's bodies became bigger and bigger under everyone's shocked gazes. Seeing this scene, not to mention Li Boyo and the others, even Ren Ziheng and the others revealed astonished expressions. They had been teammates with Bailey Hongzhuang for such a long time, but they did not know that Xiao He and Xiao Bai had such terrifying abilities. After becoming bigger, Xiao He and Xiao Bai could be said to be extremely strong. With a sweep of their hands, they cleared out the skeletons in front of them. Di Beichen's mystical fire demon rock spread its wings and flew into the air with Shangguan Yingying on its back. The ruins prohibited flying. Cultivators could not float in the air, but the mystical fire demon rock could. Shangguan had obviously suffered heavy injuries. If she continued to stay here, it would be difficult for everyone to take care of her. It would be best if the mystical fire demon rock could bring Shangguan to the other side of the passage. Xiren's berserk earth-shaking tiger also showed itself. It and White Lion stood on both sides of the team. Although it hadn't been growing for a long time, with Master Long's help, the berserk earth-shaking tiger was no longer a child. It had reached adulthood. His majestic appearance was very domineering. With a tiger pounce, he directly pounced on a group of skeletons. Shangguan deep-sea demonic flood dragon wasn't inferior either. They weren't on the surface of the sea, so its fighting power couldn't be maximized. However, the divine dragon's tail whip was still quite powerful. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could be said to be getting faster and faster, and the distance that was gradually being pulled apart once again. Seeing this scene, the cultivators of the other three teams could not help but frown. The experts of the three major forces were all here, but the limelight was snatched away by the younger generation. They really felt a little embarrassed. The mystical fire demon rock did not disappoint everyone's expectations. It successfully brought Shangguan to the other side of the passage. Senior brother Li, they went there before us. What should we do? Li Buoyo's face darkened. Let them go first. If they manage to snatch the treasure, we'll snatch it from them. If Li Buoyo didn't have the intention to kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others before, then he really wanted to kill them now. It was obvious that these fellows were rich. If he killed them, he would definitely gain a lot. What's more, he was also very dissatisfied with how these juniors had stolen the limelight. It was obvious that Li Buoyo was not a good person. He was afraid that he would encounter a lot of trouble. Moreover, although Wan Yinling was their senior brother, no one knew if he would help them in this kind of place. Don't think too much. Look, there's a stone room. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed at a stone room not far away. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes lit up. After walking for so long, they finally saw the stone room. Needless to say, gold, silver, and other treasures, the most important thing was these mid-grade spirit stones, which were very helpful to them. That's right, we have to hurry, Runzime said. Just as everyone was about to put away the treasures, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rang out. Wait! Don't touch it! Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone could not help but be stunned. Their faces flashed with thick astonishment. Hongzhuang, what's wrong? Shangguan couldn't help but ask. The inheritance they left behind is not to nurture young people, but to send them to their deaths. As Ao Lingxiao's voice faded, everyone's expression changed. If that was really the case, then it would be terrible. I hope it's just that the owner of this ruin likes to test everyone. And it's not what you said. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but say. According to Ao Lingxiao's words, this ruin was a little scary. As everyone continued to move forward, suddenly, a huge door appeared in front of everyone. The black door had a golden totem drawn on it. At a glance, it gave people a feeling of shock. Chapter 4064. This door looks extraordinary. Could the inheritance be here? Mo Yunjue stared at the door in front of him. The surrounding decorations seemed to exude a sense of nobility. Compared to the hall they had seen before, this place in front of them was obviously more important. Everyone could not help but look at each other, secretly guessing in their hearts. If that was really the case, then it would be great. Let's go in and take a look. Di Beichen spoke out. Everyone nodded and immediately reached out to push the door open. However, after everyone pushed, they realized that the door could not be pushed open at all. Why can't this door be pushed open? Everyone looked at each other. They really did not expect to encounter such a situation. Looks like there's an 80 to 90% chance that there's a treasure behind this door. Xiren's eyes lit up. The door of the stone room was pushed open so easily before, but the thing inside was poisonous and could not be taken away. Now that this door can't be opened, the thing inside must be real. Hearing Xiren's words, everyone could not help but chuckle. If it is really as you say, then it will be great. Ever since they came here, they had been adventuring but had not gained anything. Now they could only hope to gain something. Everyone stood in front of the door, thinking about how to enter. Thinking about it, since even they could not open this door, it could not be opened by force. There must be a trick to it. Thinking of this, everyone carefully looked around the door. Now, they could be considered to have some experience. Along the way, they had been looking for mechanisms. Presumably, this time would be no exception. I don't know what kind of mechanism it is this time. The owner of this ruin really likes to test people. Shangguan Yingying sighed. She originally thought that she was quite smart, but ever since she came here, she felt that her brain was not enough. Along the way, other than the most obvious mechanism that she saw in the hall, she really did not understand anything else that needed to be understood. Perhaps the owner of this ruin values comprehension very much. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She also felt that the personality of the owner of this ruin was very strange. However, there were all kinds of people. Perhaps it was because of the many obstacles that this inheritance was so amazing. Perhaps the inheritance of the power of darkness places a high value on comprehension, which is why he arranged it this way, Di Beichan said. Shangguan Yingying spread out her hands. Just from this situation, I know that this inheritance has nothing to do with me. She finally understood that if the owner of this ruin valued perception so much, then she basically had no chance at all. I only hope that there are some treasures inside. That way I can at least gain something. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's expression, which seemed like she had already seen through everything, everyone felt a little funny. Perhaps this kind of attitude was better. Yingying, that might not be the case. Maybe the owner of the ruins appreciates your open-minded attitude, so he directly passed the inheritance to you. When Xiren smiled and joked, anything is possible. Haha, it would be great if what you said was true. When I become stronger, I will protect you. Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows and laughed. Chapter 4065. Facing the black and gold door in front of them, the group first looked around carefully to see if there were any traps. However, even after they searched the entire area, they found that there were no traps at all. Seeing this, the group could not help but frown. If there were no traps around, then the situation would be a little complicated. If there are no traps around, then how are we going to get in? Renzime could not help but ask. The situation in front of them was really confusing. After Mo Yunjue carefully looked around, his gaze finally fixed on the black door. Maybe the solution lies on this door? This door? Chu Jinfeng was secretly surprised. Aside from looking a little better, there's nothing different about this door. The pattern on this door is the problem that needs to be solved. Di Beichen stared at the black door in front of him, the corners of his lips slowly curling up. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. I didn't expect this to be a puzzle. What do you mean? Shangguan Yingying could not help but ask Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Until now, she had not discovered what was different about this black door. How did Di Beichen and the rest know how to solve it? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and explained. Yingying, use your mental strength to touch this black door and you'll find out. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the group tried to use their mental strength to touch the golden door. Sure enough, as soon as they touched it, a huge jigsaw puzzle appeared in front of them. The pattern on this puzzle was very similar to the pattern on the black folding door in front of them, but it was much bigger. It would not be easy to put this puzzle together. It seems that we can only enter this door after we put this puzzle together. When Xiren couldn't help but sigh. With such a large jigsaw puzzle and such a dark pattern, it really wasn't an easy task to piece it together. Moreover, looking at this number, one could tell that it would take a very long time to piece them together. Perhaps before they could piece them together, the cultivators behind them would have already caught up. Do your best, Di Beichen said. For a moment, Everyone sat in front of the door, trying to piece the puzzle together. In order to complete this puzzle, not only did it require sufficient time, it also required a great deal of patience. Otherwise, if he was anxious, it would be even more difficult to complete it. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang's group was trying to crack the door, the three teams of Li Boyo, Wan Yanling, and Bai Yingtian also passed through the skeleton hall and came to the back. Among the three teams, Li Boyo's team was the first to come out. After all, they were originally in second place and had a certain advantage. Although Wan Yanling's team was slightly slower, they didn't fall behind by much. In comparison, Bai Yingtian's team was the slowest. Chapter 4066. Li Boyo and the others continued forward until they reached the first stone chamber. Only then did they stop. Looking at the closed door of the stone chamber, Li Boyo pushed it open with one hand. When everyone saw the current situation, their faces couldn't help but flash with a thick sense of shock. Wow! Almost everyone could not help but exclaim. So many treasures, it's really amazing. Everyone only felt an indescribable sense of luck rushing to the top of their heads. Such a scene was usually only seen in their dreams. In the next moment, everyone rushed towards the treasures, only wanting to put all the treasures into their own Qiankuan bags. However, after seeing this scene, Li Boyo could not help but be puzzled. There are so many treasures here, why didn't Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest take them? Such treasures, as long as one was human, would definitely be tempted. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were in front of them, there was naturally no reason for them not to take them. Hearing Li Boyo's words, everyone was a little puzzled. This was really something that they couldn't understand. Perhaps they were too anxious when they left, so they did not notice that there was a stone chamber here? Li Boyo frowned slightly. Although this stone chamber is not particularly obvious, it shouldn't be overlooked so easily, right? The door of this stone chamber is tightly shut. Perhaps they left in too much of a hurry so they overlooked it. Impossible. Li Boyo shook his head. One person might have overlooked it, but how could the entire team have overlooked this place? Something must be wrong. Thinking of this, Li Boyo could not help but move closer to the treasures to feel carefully, but he did not find anything. These were all real treasures and there was nothing strange about them. Why would the other party neglect this place? Could it be that they feel that although these things are precious, they are all external objects? In addition, we are all chasing after them, and they want to obtain the inheritance in the ruins, so they chose to give up on these things? Another cultivator could not help but say. As everyone knew, there were always many treasures in ruins, but the most precious treasure was the inheritance of the ruin's owner. This is the only explanation that has some possibility. Li Boyo thought for a while, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If that was really the case, then the thinking of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other youngsters was truly terrifying. With so much wealth in front of them, they actually chose not to take it. This was not something an ordinary person could do. At the same time, it also proved their determination to inherit this legacy. Seniorly, that must be the case. Let's quickly put away these treasures. Otherwise, it will be too late once Wan Yanling and the others catch up. Hearing this, Li Boyo looked at the treasures in front of him with mixed feelings. Vaguely, he felt that there must be a problem, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. Leave some people here to store the treasures. The rest of you follow me to chase after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. We can't let them take the inheritance. Li Boyo said. If the inheritance was snatched away by Wan Yanling, he might be able to accept it. However, if it was snatched away by a few juniors, he really couldn't accept it. It wasn't until this moment that he understood that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surrounded by a layer of restrictions. No one else could attack them. No wonder they dared to sit here and meditate so boldly. Li Boyo, you are a senior after all. How dare you sneak attack someone from the back? That is too shameless. Wan Yanling looked at Li Boyo with a gloomy expression. He did not expect Li Boyo to become more and more despicable in such a short time. Hearing Wan Yanling's words, Li Boyo's expression turned ugly. They had to piece the picture together. Immediately, the group of them sat beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and began to piece together this huge puzzle. Not long after, the disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate arrived and entered the same state. Chapter 4072. When Bailey Hongzhuang entered the hall, she found that there was no one in the hall. Di Beichen was not there at all. She could not help but anxiously call out, "Beichen?" When Di Beichen saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had come, his eyes flashed with surprise, and he immediately called out Hongzhuang. However, after he called out, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to see him at all. Seeing this, Di Beichen's eyes flashed with confusion. He could not help but stand up and wanted to go out to find Bailey Hongzhuang. However, after he stood up, he found that he could not walk out of the black pool at all. It was as if there was a force imprisoning him. Could it be that after entering the black pool, no one else can see me? Di Beichen murmured. Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance was as if she could not see his existence. At this moment she was still looking for him. After thinking carefully, Di Beichen also understood. It seemed that this was specially arranged by the owner of the ruins. He did not understand before, but at this moment he understood everything. Only cultivators who respected the owner of the ruins could enter the black pool to absorb the energy. On the contrary, if they did not find the trick, they would not be able to absorb the energy in the black pool. Bailey Hongzhuang called out twice but did not get any response. She could not help but frown in confusion. Why is Beichen not here? Could it be that his speed is so fast that he has passed to the next place? Or, this is another small world. Maybe he is beside me, but I can't see him. This kind of method has always been used by the owner of the ruins. After Di Beichen heard Bailey Hongzhuang's muttering, his eyes couldn't help but light up. His wife was really smart, she had thought of this possibility so quickly. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and carefully looked at everything in the hall. It was obviously useless to think about other things now. The most important thing was to find out what was special about this hall. However, after walking around the hall for a while, they didn't find anything special. There was only a black pool in front of them and a coffin behind them. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on the black pool. She could feel the energy in the black pool. It must be a great treasure. Di Beichen saw Bailey Hongzhuang walking to the side of the black pool, and could not help but feel a little worried. Speaking of which, what he did before was just a coincidence. If Bailey Hongzhuang directly tried to enter the black pool, she obviously would not succeed. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to enter the black pool, her gaze once again fell on the coffin behind. I didn't expect the owner of the ruins to put this coffin together with the black pool. It seems that this black pool must be something very important to him. Bailey Hongzhuang muttered to herself. Until the end, he still had to look at the black pool. One could imagine how important it was to him. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but walk to the front of the coffin. She bowed and said, "Junior Bailey Hongzhuang greets Senior. This time Senior's ruins have appeared. Junior just happened to come here. If I have disturbed Senior, I hope Senior will forgive me." Di Beichun, who was in the black pool, saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions and could not help but smile. Chapter 4075. However, they did not know if Mo Yunjue would perform as well as before. However, just as Xiren and the others were guessing, Mo Yunjue turned into a cloud of black smoke and disappeared from their sight. Seeing this, Xiren and the others were stunned. It seemed that their previous judgment was right. Mo Yunjue was also a first-rate cultivation genius. This level of comprehension was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Just as Mo Yunjue disappeared, Li Boyo's figure also disappeared. At the sight of this, the cultivators from the Crimson Moon sect revealed a smile on their faces. Previously, the new disciples of Penglai Palace had stolen the limelight and they were very unhappy. Now that Li Boyo had entered the main hall before Wan Yinling, it had undoubtedly helped them regain some face. However, just as Li Boyo disappeared, Wan Yinling's figure also disappeared. In comparison, the cultivators of Hundred Flowers Gate were still slightly inferior. Next, the cultivators entered the main hall one by one. Bai Yingtian of Hundred Flowers Gate entered right after Wan Yinling. After all, although the pattern was very difficult to piece together, as long as one had enough patience and a bit of comprehension, one could still succeed. If one really did not feel anything about the pattern, one would not be able to succeed. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were cultivating inside, they noticed cultivators appearing one after another in the main hall. Seeing this, the two of them could not help but look at each other. As expected, the other cultivators had also entered after spending some time. Everyone noticed the existence of the black pool the moment they entered. They did not pay any attention to the coffin behind it. The moment Li Boyo saw the black pool, he knew that it must be something good. He immediately wanted to enter the black pool. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun could not help but look at each other. They were also curious. If they did not have the permission of the owner of the ruins, what would happen if they directly entered the black pool? However, just as Li Boyo was about to step into the black pool, there seemed to be an invisible restriction that bounced him back. He was unable to take even half a step forward. "I see." Bailey Hongzhuang smirked. She had wanted to enter the black pool when she saw it, but she didn't do so in the end. It turned out that without the permission of the master of the ruins, one simply could not step into this black pool. Li Boyo was clearly stunned by this situation. He immediately extended his hand and tried to enter the black pool again. However, after touching it, he discovered that there was an invisible restriction on the black pool that prevented him from entering. What's going on? Could it be that this black pool can't be entered? Li Boyo couldn't help but frown as a trace of irritation appeared between his brows. He could tell at a glance that the energy in the black pool was a treasure, but it was such a treasure that he could only look at but not consume. This was too unbearable. Mo Yunjue and Wan Yinling also walked to Li Boyo's side. After trying the black pool, they discovered that everything was as expected. Could it be that this black pool can't be entered? Where did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others go? Chapter 4076. As Bai Ingtian's voice fell, the cultivators present also looked at each other. They didn't think of this before, but after Bai Ingtian's reminder, they reacted. Yeah, where did Bailey Hongzhuang and the others go? Could it be that there are other levels after this level, and they have already passed the next level? Bai Ingtian frowned. It was really hard to say what would happen in the ruins. No one knew what would happen in the end. Li Buyo's face was slightly cold. He wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, but he didn't succeed. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already passed the next level, he naturally wouldn't be happy. Since we can't enter this black pool, the problem must be with this coffin. Li Buyo slowly walked towards the coffin. The other cultivators didn't stop near the black pool, but approached the coffin together. After all, there was only this black pool and the coffin in the entire hall. If the black pool didn't have any use, there was only one possibility left. However, after everyone walked near the coffin, they still didn't find anything. Could the problem be in this coffin? Li Buyo's eyes flashed with bright and curious light. The coffin lid had always been closed, so they didn't know what was inside. However, he felt that the owner of the ruin wouldn't really leave his corpse here. Hearing Li Buyo's words, Wang Yanling couldn't help but frown and said, "This should be the owner of the ruin. Since we're here, it's too disrespectful to do this." "I don't think so. Maybe the owner of the ruin deliberately put a coffin here to confuse us." Li Buyo obviously didn't care about what Wang Yanling said, and the expression on his face revealed a bit of conceit. This kind of thing is a test of one's ability and courage. I think it's very likely that there's something special here. After hearing Li Buyo's words, the other cultivators' expressions became a little complicated. If there were other mechanisms here, then they would definitely not think about this coffin. However, there was really no other discovery in this hall, so they felt very helpless. "Li Buyo, why don't you try?" Bai Ingtian raised his eyebrows. Although he also felt that this action was a bit inappropriate, it was still a possibility. Maybe the owner of this ruin had a different way of thinking from ordinary people, so he made this special arrangement. Hearing Bai Ingtian's words, Li Buyo couldn't help but frown. "Do you mean to use me as a test subject?" "It's just that you have a lot of guts, so I'm letting you try." Bai Ingtian shrugged as if saying, "It's up to you whether you want to try or not." Compared to the other cultivators who were thinking about the coffin, Mo Yunjue obviously did not have such thoughts. However, he also had some doubts in his heart. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen should be here and wouldn't go anywhere else. But why couldn't he see them here? Xiren and Shangguan Yingying expended a lot of effort to enter the main hall. Chapter 4077. Yunjue, what's the situation now? Why are there so many of them gathered here? When Xiren walked to Mo Yunjue's side with a puzzled look on his face. Where are Beichen and Hongzhuang? Why haven't I seen them? Mo Yunjue shook his head and said, "I don't know where they are. I saw this situation as soon as I came in, but I didn't see them. Now, everyone is looking for the inheritance." Hearing this, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying finally understood. So that's how it is. Shangguan Yingying suddenly understood. Beichen and Hongzhuang are so smart. Maybe they have already found the inheritance of this ruin. In my opinion, Li Buyo and the others are wasting so much effort. It's meaningless. No way. Li Buyo is planning to open the coffin? When Xiren could not help but exclaim in surprise when he heard the discussions of the crowd. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. This is too disrespectful to the owner of this ruin. If this is really the coffin of the owner of this ruin, won't he be angered to death? When Xiren only felt that it was inconceivable. Normal people would not do such a rude thing. Most ruins were built according to the owner's dying wish to continue their inheritance. Therefore, it was very likely that the body of the owner of this ruin was here. Usually, cultivators would be in awe here. How could anyone go so far? I also think that this Li Buyo is too daring. The things he does are somewhat incomprehensible. Shangguan Yingying frowned. She had long found Li Boyo an eyesore. Previously, he even wanted to kill them. If it were not for the fact that their team's strength was not as good as Li Boyo's, she really wanted to send this guy to heaven. Let's not associate ourselves with them, Mo Yunjue slowly said. Whether the body of the owner of this ruin is here or not, as long as he knows about this, he will be very angry. According to Mo Yunjue's understanding, even if the owner of this ruin had passed away, he would often leave a remnant soul in this ruin. If someone did something he didn't like, he wouldn't let them off easily. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Ziren both nodded. In my opinion, we should apologize to the owner of the ruins first. If these people go too far and implicate us, it won't be good. All right. When Ziren and Mo Yunjue both agreed. They had come here to obtain the inheritance of the master of the ruins and increase their strength. They did not want to humiliate the master of the ruins. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had been paying attention to the situation in the hall. Especially after hearing the conversation between Shangguan Yingying and the others, they couldn't help but smile. If it wasn't for Li Boyo's exaggerated actions, perhaps Shangguan Yingying and the other two wouldn't have such an idea. However, once they did so, then they would be able to enter the black pool, which was really good news. Looks like we have to thank Li Boyo for this. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Originally, she thought that their team was the weakest among the 4 teams. She didn't expect them to gain so much. Sure enough, after Shangguan Yingying and the others bowed to the master of the ruins, they disappeared from everyone's sight. Chapter 4078. It turned out that after the cultivator bowed to the owner of the ruins, they would disappear from the sight of others. This way, others would not understand how they disappeared. Mo Yunjue and the other two reacted just like Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen before. After knowing the owner of the ruins' request, they were very confused. However, in the end they still did as he said. When they turned around, they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen in the black pool. Their faces were immediately filled with shock. As they walked into the black pool, Bailey Hongzhuang said in surprise, "You guys are in too? What's going on? I didn't see you guys in the black pool before." Shangguan Yingying was a little dumbfounded. Why was the scene completely different from before after she followed the owner of the ruins' instructions? This is the owner of the ruins' camouflage. Right now we can see outside, but the people outside can't see us because there's a restriction in the black pool. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue and the other two finally understood. Their faces were filled with realization. So that's how it is. Mo Yunjue sighed. I didn't expect that the key to breaking the restriction would be here. Everyone, let's stop chatting. This is a rare opportunity. Let's hurry up and absorb this energy. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded everyone. No one knew how long they could stay in the black pool. What they could do now was to hurry up and absorb as much energy as they could. After hesitating for a long time, Li Boyo finally decided to try opening the coffin. Just wait and see. The treasure must be in the coffin. In the next moment, as Li Boyo stretched out his hand to open the coffin, a powerful force suddenly exploded from the coffin. Li Boyo only felt himself being attacked by a powerful force. Then his entire body flew out and crashed into the wall. His internal organs felt as if they had been crushed. Pooh! A mouthful of blood uncontrollably spurted out from Li Boyo's mouth. His face instantly turned pale and his aura withered. This scene happened so suddenly that everyone present could not help but be stunned. However, even though they had already guessed that Li Boyo's actions were a little too much, and that he might be punished by the owner of the ruins, the punishment came so quickly and so shockingly. It was beyond their expectations. Senior Li. The cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect all rushed to Li Boyo's side. This scene was really shocking. They did not expect the punishment to be so severe. Everyone tried to help Li Boyo up, but Li Boyo seemed as if he had no strength. His face turned pale and he could not stop spurting out blood. Senior brother Li, how are you? The disciples asked with concern. Their faces were filled with worry. However, Li Boyo was not in the mood to reply to the crowd. His eyes were wide open as if something unbelievable had happened. "Senior Li, what's wrong?" The cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect asked one after another. They were completely clueless as to what the problem was. At the same time, Wan Yinling and Bai Yingtian arrived beside Li Boyo. Their expressions were somewhat complicated. Chapter 4079. Impossible. Li Boyo shook his head with a pale face. "It's absolutely impossible. It's impossible for something like this to happen. I must have made a mistake." When everyone saw that Li Boyo was only muttering to himself and ignoring their questions, they couldn't help but feel puzzled. "Senior brother Li, what exactly happened? What are you talking about?" Everyone asked one after another, but Li Boyo's face remained pale and he was unwilling to answer. His expression was one of someone who had suffered a huge blow. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, completely clueless as to where the problem came from. "It's impossible. It wasn't easy for me to cultivate to this level. How could my dantian be destroyed?" Li Boyo shouted crazily. This matter was too big a blow for him. He could not accept it at all. It was just a single attack. With his current strength, he could not even block an attack that was placed on the coffin. Everyone who was still a little doubtful was stunned after hearing Li Boyo's words. They couldn't help but widen their eyes, and a look of shock appeared on their faces. "Senior brother Li, what did you say? Your cultivation has been destroyed?" The cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect could not believe it. Li Boyo was a cultivator who had reached the 5th level of the Starlight Realm. Even in the entire Penglai Island, there were not many people who could be his opponent. However, just a single attack from the coffin was enough to destroy his dantian. Just how powerful was the attack? How terrifying was the strength of the owner of the ruins? It's too terrifying. The cultivators present sighed one after another. Such a punishment was simply unacceptable to cultivators. Wan Yinling and Bai Yingtian could not help but look at each other. They had already felt that Li Boyo's actions were a little too much. However, the punishment from the owner of the ruins was too severe. This was equivalent to directly cutting off Li Boyo's path of survival. For cultivators of their level, they had spent so much effort to get to where they were today with great difficulty. However, with just one move they had become crippled. Such a blow was even harder to accept than if they were told to die. Bai Yingtian could not help but feel a little lucky. Fortunately, he did not listen to Li Yunyu and try to do all this. Otherwise, he would be the one in a tragedy now. After seeing Li Boyo's change, everyone was silent for a moment. The cultivators of Penglai Palace and 100 Flowers Gate naturally would not be affected by Li Boyo's situation. This kind of thing could be said to be happy to see. However, through this incident, they also understood the temper and strength of the owner of the ruins. This coffin could be said to be sacred and inviolable. This way we don't have to worry. Revenge. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction, Mo Yunjue said indifferently. Chapter 4080. For Li Boyo, this kind of blow is probably worse than taking his life. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. "Who cares? Anyway, I'm very happy to see him end up like this." Shangguan Yingying looked proud. Li Boyo is just like his younger brother, Li Yunyu. They're both so annoying. Don't worry about them. Let's focus on cultivating now. Di Beichen reminded everyone. Although there were only a few cultivators in the palace who could discover this, there might still be some cultivators who would discover this opportunity. Moreover, after the incident with Li Boyo, everyone would definitely respect the owner of the ruins more. Therefore, the possibility of discovering this would also increase. Immediately, everyone stopped paying attention to the situation outside. They had to grasp this opportunity well. After the incident with Li Boyo, the other cultivators no longer dared to have any thoughts about the coffin. Thinking about it, as long as they approached the coffin they would be attacked. No one dared to try it again. Right, where are the 3 newcomers from Penglai Palace who were here just now? After the cultivator from 100 Flowers Gate looked around, he suddenly realized that Mo Yunjue and the other 2 had disappeared. As the cultivator's voice fell, everyone present could not help but look around. They realized that the 3 of them were indeed nowhere to be seen. That's not right. They were clearly with us before. How could they suddenly disappear? I didn't remember wrongly, right? A cultivator was also somewhat confused. Could it be that he was hallucinating before? Or did the 3 of them not enter the palace at all? You didn't remember wrongly. The 3 of them were indeed here before. Another cultivator confirmed his answer. Then when did they disappear? I don't know. Everyone was at a loss. Previously, everyone's attention was on Li Boyo. No one paid attention to Mo Yunjue and the other 2. Because in their eyes the 3 of them were the weakest. There was no need to pay attention to them at all. If a cultivator had not mentioned this point, they probably would not have noticed at all. Wang Yanling, your Penglai Palace team is a bit strange. Bai Yingtian looked at Wang Yanling with doubt in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen are also gone. Do you know where they are? Everyone else was here, but Bailey Hongzhuang's team was missing. This was too strange. Hearing Bai Yingtian's question, Wang Yanling's expression was a bit complicated. He didn't understand this either. There was clearly no way out of this hall. They had already tried, but the door could not be opened at all. Moreover, if they left just like that, no one would be able to ignore such a huge commotion. Then where did this group of people run off to? I don't know either, Wang Yanling said helplessly. Previously, he had already heard that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not ordinary people. Now, after this trip to the ruins, he really felt that they were not simple. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.